Hello friends, welcome to the YouTube channel. So today we are going to start with the second chapter, that is Kings, Farmers and Towns. Hope you must have gone with the first chapter, that is Harappan Civilization, Bricks, Beats and Bones. Students, today we'll start with the second chapter, but this chapter I had divided into two parts. This is the first part and second part will come very soon. In this first part, we are going to talk about Prinsip Priyadasi, who deciphered Brahmi and Kharosthi. These were the two scripts. We'll talk about the earliest states, the 16 Janpadas, one of which is Magad also. We'll talk about the earlier empire, the Mauryas. You must have heard about Chanakya, about the administration, the chief and kings in the south, the divine kings. So today we are going to collect all these topics. So first we are talking about the early states and economies. So here we are going to see about there were several developments in different parts of the subcontinent during the long span of 1500 years following the end of the Harappan civilization. This was also the period during which the Rigveda was composed by the people living along the Indus and its tributaries. Agriculture settlements emerged in many parts of the subcontinent, including the North India. The Deccan Plateau and the parts of Karnataka also you can see. New modes of disposal of death, including the making of the elaborate stones structures known as megaliths, emerged in Central and South India. That was from the first million BC. So this was a long time we are talking about. There are evidence that there were other trends as well. Perhaps the most visible was the emergence of earlier state empires and kingdoms. Ranges of sources were the inscriptions, the text, the coins and the visual materials which the archaeologists have got. But whatever things we had got till now, whatever the inscriptions or texts or coins or the visual materials we have got, that do not tell the entire story about the past, but through these we had tried to frame or try to find out few things. Now we are going to talk about the Prinsip and Priyadasi. Some of the most momentous development in the Indian epigraphy took place in 1830s. This was when James Prinsip, he was an officer in the Mint of East India Company, they deciphered Brahmi and Kharosthi. Now what is Brahmi and what is Kharosthi? They were the two scripts used in the earliest inscriptions and coins. And deciphered means to decode them, to convert them. So these were the two people who tried to decode these terms. Like for example, if I make some coding, so it will be difficult for you to understand the coding of a name. Like if I write Aditi, A-D-I-T-I, and for A I write something, a different code if I give. So after some time it will be very difficult for you to decode the meaning of what was the word I have written. So these were the people who tried to find out, who tried to decode and who tried to convert the words. So he found that most of this mentioned a king referred to as Priyadasi, meaning pleasant to behold. Few inscriptions refer to as the king as Ashok, ruler known from the Buddhist text. You must have heard about Ashok also. The earliest states, that is the 16 Janpadas, Now, what is Janpad? We'll talk about that. Janpad means the land where the people or the clan or the tribe sets its foot or settles. This actually is a word from Prakrit and Sanskrit both. Now we'll talk about what is Mahajanpada. Mahajanpada means states, group of Janpads, that is known as Mahajanpadas. The 6th century BC is often regarded as a major turning point in the earlier Indian history. Now why? For that, we'll talk about in this area it is associated with earlier states, cities and growing use of iron, coinage, etc. It also witnessed the growth of the diverse system of thoughts, that is Buddhism and Jainism. So a diverse system was being seen of spiritual thinking or the thoughts. Among these 16 states were also known as Mahajanpadas. You can get some examples also, such as Vejji, Magda, Khosla, Kuru. So these were Avanti. You must have heard about Avanti. So these are some of the frequent ones which comes under the 16 states of Mahajanpadas. While most Mahajanpadas were ruled by the king, some known as Janas like Mahavira or Buddha or Sangh were oligarchies. Oligarchies means the group of people who were ruling out the area, where power was shared by a number of men, often collectively called Rajas. Each Mahajanpada has a capital city which was often fortified. Now maintaining these fortified cities as well as providing for specific armies and bureaucracies, they required some resources. From 6th century BC onwards, Brahmins began composing Sanskrit texts known as Dharma Sutras. This laid down norms for rulers who were ideally expected to be Kshatriyas. Hence the Brahmins, they composed a Sanskrit text in which they said that the rulers should be ideally Kshatriyas. Rulers were advised to collect taxes and tributes from the artisan or cultivators or traders. Some states acquire standing armies and maintain regular bureaucracies. Bureaucracies means the decisions are taken by the state officials rather than the elected representatives. Earlier election, that was not a system like now we are having democratic system. Earlier bureaucracies were there, so they used to look after the whole system in the country. Now from the 16 Mahajanpadas, we are going to talk about the Magad first. The first among the 16, that is Magad, that is 6th to 4th BCE. Modern historians explain this development in the variety of ways. So mainly they talk about the 4 important aspects. So that was, first was agriculture. So Magad was the region where agriculture was especially productive. Then the second was iron mines in present day like Jharkhand were accessible and provided resources for tools and weapons. So iron was an important tool for these people of Magad. Then the next was about elephants. It was an important component of the army, where forest, it was found in the forest in these regions. Also the Ganga and the tributaries provided the means of cheap and convenient communication. So agriculture, iron mines, elephant, Ganga. Many times the question comes in the exam, why was Magad played an important role in this 16 Janpadas? So you need to talk about these 4 important aspects. See, however, earlier Buddhist and Jain writers who wrote about the Magad attributed its power to the policies of individuals, rather less ambitious king of whom, like you must have heard about Bimbisara, Rajashatru or Mahapadma Nanda. So these were some important people at that time, and they had their own system of living. They helped in implementing the policies, and they had their own ministers. Rajghara was an capital of Magad, means house of the king. The capital of Magad, that was Rajghara, and Prakrit name for the present day Rajgir in Bihar, you can see. In the 4th century BC also, the capital was shifted from Patliputra, like present day Patna, commanding route of communication along the Ganga. So the next topic is, that is earlier empire, the growth of Magad culminated in the emergence of the Mauryan Empire. Now we'll talk about the Mauryan Empire. Chandragupta Maurya, you must have heard, who founded the empire in 321 BC, extended control as far northwest as Afghanistan and Baluchistan, and his grandson Ashok, the famous ruler of earlier India, conquered Kalinga, the present day, which is in the coastal area of Orissa. So we are talking about the finding out about the Mauryas. Historians have used a variety of sources to reconstruct the history of the Mauryan Empire, that is through archaeological finds, especially sculptures, contemporary works such as the account of Megasthenes, Ajatashatru. Megasthenes, a Greek ambassador to the court of Chandragupta Maurya, which survives in fragments. Another source that is often used, that is Ajatashatru Arthashastra, parts of which were probably composed by Kautilya, or you must be knowing the name Chanakya. The Mauryas are mentioned in the later Buddhist, Jain and Puranic literature, as well as in the Sanskrit literary works also. They are useful in inscriptions of Ashok on rocks and pillars. They are often regarded as among the most valuable source of that particular time period. Ashok was the first ruler who inscribed his message to his subjects and officials on the stone surface. He used the inscription to proclaim what he understood to be the Dhamma. This includes respect towards elders, generosity towards Brahmins and those who pronounced worldly life, treating slaves and servants kindly, and respect for religion and traditions other than one's own. That was known as Dhamma, or which we say Dharma. Now the thing comes about the administrating the empire. There were 5 political centers in the empire: the capital Patliputra and the provincial centers of Takshila, Ujjaini, Tosali, Suvarnagiri, all mentioned in the Ashokan inscriptions. If we examine the content of these inscriptions, we find virtually the same message engraved everywhere. For the present day northwest frontiers, provisions of Pakistan or to Andhra Pradesh, Orissa and Jharkhand in India, could this vast empire have had the uniform administrative systems? This was the big question in front of the archaeologist. These regions include within the empire were just too diverse. Just imagine the hilly terrain of Afghanistan and the coasts of Orissa. It was very difficult to have the same administrative system in the whole area. Takshila and Ujjaini being situated on important long distance trade routes, while Suvarnagiri, the Golden Mountain, was possibly important for trapping the gold mines of Karnataka. Suvarnagiri, you must be knowing. Kankagiri, you must have heard. Koppal district, you must have read in class 10th also about this. Koppal district. So it is important in trapping the gold mines. This Megasthenes mentioned the committee with the 6 subcommittees for according military activities. Of these, one had after the navy, the second managed the transport and provinces, the third was responsible for foot soldiers, the fourth for horses, and fifth for chariot, and there was a sixth for elephants. These activities of the second subcommittees were also there, like arranging the bullock carts to carry equipments, procuring food for soldiers and fodders for animals, and recruiting servants and artists to look after the soldiers. So here you can see two groups were being made, committees and the subcommittees. So Megasthenes mentioned all these things, that at that time this was the system how they used to work out with the big large area. Special officers, also known as Dhamma Mahatma, were appointed to spread the message of Dham. It means that with administrating system, they also wanted that the system should go properly. So for that, spirituality was also been taken as an important aspect. Now, new notion of kingship, chiefs and kings in the south. The new kingdom that emerged in the Deccan and further south included the chiefdom of the Cholas, Cheras and Pandyas. This you must have read in class 8th. This mainly include the parts like today's present day somewhere in Andhra Pradesh and Kerala, southern part, that is the southern part, and some parts of Tamil Nadu also you can get. We are talking about the chief and kings. Now, who is the chief? The chief is a powerful man whose position may or may not be hereditary. His functions may include performing special rituals, leadership in welfare, and arbitrating disputes. He receives gifts from his subordinates and often distributes these among his supporters. Generally, there are no regular armies and officials in chiefdom. Many chiefs and kings, including the Satavahanas, derived revenues from long distance trade. Once they acquired power, they attempted to claim social status in the variety of ways in that particular areas. And the Arthashastra lays down the minute details of administrating and military organization, and this is the way how they used to capture the different areas in that time period. Now the topic comes about the divine kings. Colossal statues of, colossal means a big, huge, जिसको हम प्रचंड बोलते हैं. Statues were also been seen of Kushana rulers have been found installed in the shrine of Mat near Mathura. Mathura now it is in Uttar Pradesh. Similar statues have been found in the shrine of Afghanistan as well. Some historians feel this indicates that the Kushans considers themselves as godlike. Now, this topic mainly says about the divine king. Means the king at that time used to feel that they are god. Many Kushan rulers also adopted the title of Devputra or son of God, possibly inspired by the Chinese rulers who called themselves as son of heaven. By the 4th century, there is evidence of larger states, including the Gupta emperor also. Historians of the Gupta rulers have been reconstructed the literature, coins and inscriptions, including Prashastri composed in praise of king and in particular. Pragya Prashasti, also known as Allahabad pillar inscription, composed in Sanskrit in the court of poet of Samudragupta, most powerful of the Gupta ruler at that time. So that's all for today. For the left part, you can see the second video on the YouTube channel. Thank you.